Hello everyone. Been a long time. Um, it's been nearly a year and a half since my last Avatar reaction. So it's been a year and a half since I've last watched Avatar. Been 8 months since I filmed a reaction in general. So long time to go without after 5 years of basically filming nearly every day. I'm kind of nervous actually to have another go at it. I think I'm probably a bit shit at it now, to be honest. The channel kind of just became unsustainable for me, which was a huge knock on my confidence and self-esteem, which I'll be honest, I didn't have much of anyway. Um, and it killed a lot of my motivation to try and jump back into it. And I have actually tried a few times and just given up. And I do find it strange to approach this now. And yeah, I'm not sure if I can do it anymore, but I've given it another shot because I did promise to finish off a lot of the shows that I was kind of doing when I kind of had to stop doing reactions, basically. Um, and you know, it's the weekend. It's actually quite late on a Saturday night. Um, since I've got such a wild social life on the weekends, here I am sat nervously in front of a webcam being like, what am I doing? This isn't like I'm back permanently, I'm back to do this forever. This is still like limited time offer. You know, Heartstopper's coming back soon. I promised to do series 2 of that. I'm trying to warm myself back into it a bit. I did try and do this a couple of weeks ago actually, because I watched the first 2 episodes of this season again in preparation, so I was like fully like, okay, here's what's happening right now. I did that and I sat down and I filmed like half an intro and I was like, no, today is not the day. Today still might not be the day, but I've given it a go and that's what counts, I guess. So yeah, I'm just not in a very good, I guess, headspace about the channel and everything after, in my eyes, it kind of collapsed and failed a little bit, to put it bluntly. And I didn't realise how kind of pivotal it was to my life and enjoying my life. So to lose it very quickly and to then not have the time to really do it has been very difficult to adjust to, and I'm still adjusting to that. But that's personal shit. Who gives a crap about that? You're here to watch Avatar, or watch me watch Avatar, I suppose. And yeah, I'm very excited to actually carry on. And again, I'm not promising anything like, oh yes, we're going to do this regularly now and stuff. I do aim on finishing the show. That was always the plan, and then go on to do Legend of Korra and stuff like that. I'm not going to be doing Korra on the channel. I'm just doing it in my own time, because that was a different plan, a different time when I thought that was going to be something I could feasibly do. But I so wanted to finish this because this is such a bloody brilliant show, and I've been so desperate to kind of get back and continue it. But I kind of thought to myself, like, if I do just watch the rest of my own time, I think I'd regret it because I'd want to share the entire thing. We came most of the way, so I did want to get to the end and kind of share that experience with you guys because I've really enjoyed reacting to the show, and hopefully I will continue to do so. And I, as I said, when I was rewatching the first 2 episodes of this season to prepare to try and carry on, I was like, my God, I'd forgotten how good this was. Sorry to keep you waiting, if anyone's still waiting at this point. I am intrigued to see where the rest of the season's going to go. Everyone thinks Aang's dead, apart from the people who know he's alive, obvs. And Azula, that scheming little bitch. I'd forgotten just how much she aggravated me. She's, obviously setting up Zuko for a massive fail. She knows that Aang's still alive, but she's kind of giving him the credit for killing the Avatar, so that can all come crumbling down. Zuko's still desperate for that connection with Iroh, but I think Iroh's a bit pissed, which is fair. So that's emotionally destroying me still to this day after all this time. And we had a nice kind of wholesome kind of dance party that Aang threw for all the kids of the Fire Nation in the last episode, which I'd forgotten was what the last episode was about. So that was great. And there's a bit of romantic tension again with Aang and Katara that they're building up into something, I'm sure. They've kind of been teasing that for quite a long time, so I think, knowing it's the last season, I can see why they're probably leaning into little moments like that more and more, because I think if it's going to happen, now's the time, isn't it? So I am intrigued as to where the gang are heading next and what the next plan is and what's going to go down. So, yeah, I guess that's my intro done. Don't know if it's any good. Shall we watch an episode of Avatar for the first time in a year and a half? I think we should. So, yeah, Season 3, Episode 3. I love it when... I always find it so satisfying when you get to, like, you know, when the numbers match from season to episode, like 3-3. It's just good. I don't know why. I can't explain why it's good. It's just good. 3 is also my favourite number. So, you know, 3's all around. Hopefully the episode's not a 3 out of 10, though, because that would be a bit disappointing after a year and a half. Imagine if I'd done that. I come back and it's the worst episode ever. So, yeah. Let's get into it. Don't know if that was any good, but I filmed it now. Why are you swimming in the mudang? That can't be good for your wound.
Well, that explains why I can't catch a fish around here. Because normally my fishing skills are off the hook. Get it? Like a fishing hook?
Oh, soccer, I've missed you.
It's in the middle of the river. Sure is. My name's Doc. Mind if I ask
Hi.
who you are?
Doc, God's sake.
From the Earth Kingdom colony.
We're a fishing town. At least that's how it was before the factory moved in. Army makes their metal there.
Look at this place. It's so sad. We have to do something to help.
No, we can't waste our time here.
How can you be so cold and heartless?
I'm not turning my back. I'm just being realistic. We can't go around helping every rinky-dink town we wander into.
Yeah,
we'll be
they need
helping
to,
them all by taking out the Fire Lord.
yeah, put their priorities.
I'm not Doc. I'm Shu. Doc's my brother.
Oh,
But we just saw you. You're even wearing the same clothes. The only difference is your hat.
Mind telling your brother we need to ride back to shore? Hey, Colonials. My brother says you need a lift.
okay.
Can you spare some food?
Aw.
I wish I could help more.
It would be hard to leave them behind, to be fair. I know you have to think of the bigger picture,
Our detour into town
but...
today has completely thrown off our schedule. From now on, we'll take food breaks and potty breaks at the same time. Hey, it might be gross, but it's efficient. Either way, we have
You
to
would
leave
not
our
want to mess that up.
tomorrow.
I think Appa's sick.
What? Appa's sick? That's awful. I might as well just throw our schedule away now.
Oh my god.
And I'm concerned because my big furry friend doesn't...
He has no self-awareness, does he?
His tongue is purple. That can't be good. Katara, can you heal him? It looks like he needs some medicine. Are the people happier?
Oh.
Food was delivered to our village by a mysterious and wonderful person. The Painted Lady. They say she's a river spirit who watches over our town in times of need. I always thought she was just a legend. Until now. You got any more food to sell? Would you like the one-headed fish or the two-headed fish? Two-headed.
I would like to starve. Okay, so she is real. Oh.
Thank you, Painted Lady.
It's all because of the Painted Lady.
Can you
Quick
believe
turnaround on
this
that.
entire village can be affected by one lady? I mean, spirit?
Well, I hope she returns every night.
They are implying it was Katara, right? So that's my thought.
If she really
Was that
wanted
like a
to help
reveal
you,
shot
use her
before?
spirit
Okay, yeah. I wasn't entirely sure just because her look's quite different this season. So it's like, that is Katara, right?
What's the matter, buddy?
Uh-oh.
It's her. I know Heba.
Now she's like, damn, I shouldn't have taught him all this water shit.
You're really pretty for a spirit. I don't get to meet too many.
For a spirit.
The ones I do meet. Katara? Is Appa even sick? He might be sick of the purple berries I've been feeding him, but other than that, he's
Oh,
fine.
God, she's even faking that.
You lied to everyone so you could help these people. I think it's great. You're like a secret hero.
I like that he's still really approving of this, even though, you know, he's the one the deadline really, really matters for.
Getting rid of this factory is the only way to help these people permanently.
Enjoying that a bit too much, I think. That'll do it. I would have suggested doing that on the first night, but, you know. Hey, where'd you find that?
Lady, I know you've been sneaking out at night, and I know you've been lying about Appa and feeding him herbalizing cogberries.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh no. He's got a scar. He means business.
What was I supposed to do?
Leave. Do nothing.
I will never, ever turn my back on people who need me.
I like that she's sticking to her guts.
You need me, and I will never turn my back on you.
Aww.
He really does have a heart, doesn't he?
Oh. Oh. It wasn't that Sokka didn't want to help them. It's just, you know, they had to kind of be a bit savage. But since they're still here.
Where's your painted lady now?
She's coming.
There is no painted lady.
Is that right? When they come up with a plan, it's always bloody solid. And very clever. But that's why they're the future. Smartest thing they've ever done. Oppenheimer. Barbie.
Leave this village and never come back.
And maybe catch some diseases from being in that water. That'd be nice.
You're that colonial girl. How dare you act like our painted lady? Maybe she is a
Well.
airbender, but she was just trying to help you. You should be down on your knees thanking her.
Sokka, it's okay. You can't wait around for someone to help you. You have to help yourself.
She's right. But what should we do?
Maybe we can clean the river.
Yeah. We can clean the
Maybe we
river.
could move away.
I'm going to get my other brother Bushi. He loves cleaning rivers.
Then why has he not done it before?
All right, I'm Bushi.
You switched hats and called yourself a different name.
Oh, you know who does that? My brother Doc. He's crazy.
Okay. Oh, that's a bit more like it. She's real!
Thank you.
Where the hell have you been then? What do you do? Just vibe? Okay, I really enjoyed that episode. I thought, you know, we've kind of had, I guess, heavy focus on Aang and his kind of character growth and his acceptance of things in the past couple of episodes, which makes sense because the show's called Avatar: The Last Airbender for a reason. So I like that, you know, when seasons obviously have as many episodes as Avatar does, they can have kind of explorations of other characters, kind of solely dedicated to them, particularly that early in the season before, I guess, the plot really needs to get going. So I like that we switched to seeing more of Katara, and I think it's interesting. The first few episodes was like Aang accepting how things have to be, even though, you know, he didn't want it to be that way. He's like, people have to think I'm dead. You know, that is the right thing to do, even though he was desperate for that not to be the case. And he wanted to get involved. He wanted to help. He wanted to redeem himself. All that kind of jazz. And him kind of accepting that. And then this one, Katara is like, no, I'm not accepting something that I don't like, and I don't want this to be how it has to be. So I'm going to change that and do something about it. And then Aang helped her with that. So I do find that quite cool. You know, just the complexity, I guess, of people's motivations, and different situations, you know, different strokes for different folks. You know, Aang staying hidden and all of that, you know, that's kind of the bigger picture. So that's one that's, I guess, really has to stick. Whereas, you know, just saving a town every now and again, even if it does delay you, you know, it still will do some good. So, you know, different kind of priorities and stuff, which is again another big thing with this episode, particularly with Sokka. You know, he's being very kind of particular, very obsessive about a schedule, very cold, I guess, to the village's struggles, but it was for a greater good. Because, you know, if they did then just miss this big opportunity to stop the Fire Lord once and for all, because they, you know, spent a couple of days saving a village, that village is still going to be fucked ultimately anyway, then, maybe, if they don't do what they want to do. So, you know, you can get where Sokka's coming from, and I think it's, again, I think it's sad that a character that young has to think that way and think that logically and quite coldly. But someone has to, I guess. Otherwise, nothing would ever get done. They'd probably still be where they started their journey. You know, they wouldn't have gone very far at all, and unless they could make those brutal decisions. But all of these are very young kids who have kind of been forced to grow up a bit. That's what, you know, they had explored in the last episode with Aang. He was just enjoying being a normal kid, and going to school. Just chatting and making friends with other people his age, you know, because how he was born, what his destiny was, kind of tore that from him, and, you know, it's kind of been torn from all of them, really. So I did like them exploring the different sides of that conflict. You know, it wasn't just a conflict of, you know, the black and white physical conflict of this place is being polluted by a Fire Nation factory, we need to stop it. You know, there's kind of a moral conflict in there as well, but you can see both sides, and I did like that Katara stays very strong and very true to herself, and like, no, this is how it's going to be. And instead of wasting time arguing about it, I'm sure Sokka still doesn't necessarily agree with that decision, but at the end of the day, it will, this shows, I think, is when it comes down to it, you know, Sokka will do what he needs to do for his sister. I like that he kind of came to her defense when they suddenly very quickly turned on her. You know, I'd have been petty as fuck and just rebuilt the fucking factory if they responded like that. All right, there you go then, fucking die. I wouldn't really, but, you know, I did like that he didn't necessarily come around on the idea, because I think if they had their time, he would have just helped. You know, he would have been happy to, but, you know, I guess he had to be the grown-up. He had to be the adult in the group and make those calls. But when it's like, well, this is the situation we're in now, because, you know, Katara has allowed them to stay a bit longer with her own little tricks, let's help while we can. I love the idea of Katara being like, I can't turn my back, I won't turn my back on someone who needs me. And Sokka has that same viewpoint when it comes to his little sister. So that's very wholesome, and you know, I like that sibling bond a lot. So it was cool to kind of see them butt heads for most of it, but at the end of the day, I mean, families fight, but they're going to be there for each other. So I really like that kind of message, and how that turned out with them. So that's cool. I mean, I think it's often Sokka's kind of idea of going about things, I think, is often presented as the wrong way, and for the most part it is. You know, he was incredibly sexist with the Warriors of Kyoshi in Series 1, and, you know, they kind of sorted him out good and proper. So I like that. I think this one, he still definitely had his reasons, and he wasn't just like, well, this is the wrong point of view to have. You know, I can see where he was coming from. But yeah, just interesting stuff with them. And Aang kind of finding out Katara had this other identity as the Painted Lady. And, you know, he wasn't mad at her or anything about it. He was like, this is great, let's help out. You know, this is cool. You know, I guess he just believes in his own abilities now. He's kind of recovering a bit, because he's like, we can spare a few days. F the deadline, I'll be fine. We'll get there. But, you know, he very much has that, I guess, that same line of thinking. You know, he doesn't want to leave people behind. I think, I mean, we saw in those first few episodes of this season, he struggled with the idea that people do think that he's abandoned them again, because they think he's dead. He was kind of really struggling with that. So I guess that kind of sets him up to think very similarly to Katara in a situation like this. If he can help, he will. You know, because if you do think like Sokka thinks, the grand scheme of things, you know, this is kind of a very small problem. But in terms of perspective, It's not a very small problem at all to that village. It's massive. It's huge. It's immeasurable. So it may not be a huge difference to their plan to stop the Fire Lord and kind of win the day, but it is a massive difference to the people in that village. Apart from when they immediately spat it back in their face. But again, they got a bit of a lecture, and they're like, okay, we're going to take action and do it for ourselves. And I think that's kind of the good message as well, because if they can inspire, I guess, a revolution in a way, and inspire that way of thinking, like, you need to save yourself as well. That will ultimately save others if you can save yourself and do things for yourself. Take the stand. Don't just sit back and wait for someone else to do it. If they can kind of spread that message along, they won't have to take these detours. They won't have to stay in places for days when they have something that they really need to be getting on with and getting to. So it's just, I love the complexity of what's the right thing to do in that situation. Should you be a bit savage with it? Should you just help and hope that you can still do what you need to do? So, you know, again, a lot of complexities and stuff that are deeply layered into this show that aired on Nickelodeon. I love it for that. And like the whole kind of pollution metaphor, I think it's something that they have kind of dabbled with in the past in the show, when people keep thinking shows only have shoved that down our throats in recent years, but this show is like 20 years old and it's doing it, you know, because it's a relevant, even more relevant than ever now, really matter to address. And I like that they are kind of getting that message out there. I mean, I doubt any kids saw this episode and then went to their nearest factory and blew it up. I mean, fucking cool if they did, but I do not approve of that. But, you know, it's cool that they are integrating those sorts of messages and themes in, you know, a show where people can make rocks fly and they can shoot fire and move water about and, you know, do all sorts of stuff. I like that it's very grounded in truth a lot of the time as well, considering all these people with powers and stuff. But I think that's why it's so beloved, this show, and so relatable, because they do a great job with that. So that was all good. And then we have like the idea of, I guess, multiple identities in this one. We had Katara kind of taking on the image, the identity of the Painted Lady. And then we had Doc and his brothers. Don't know if that was needed necessarily. I guess it's like a quirky comedy character, especially in this episode where Sokka was a bit more serious because he needed to be, because he had to kind of be, you know, like the savage one making the hard calls. So I guess they still wanted the comedy character in there, where Sokka maybe couldn't fill that role in this particular episode, so they had Doc along. But I don't know, you know, I guess a different time where someone who maybe, you know, just has like multiple personality disorder or something is played for laughs, you know, it's a different time. But Aang's kind of growing frustration with that. It was very, very well written kind of exchange near the end. He's like, oh, this reminds you of my brother who does this. I'm like, oh, you know, that guy's crazy. You know, I think maybe elements of that don't age as well. But, you know, I do think having Doc and his brothers around adds into, like, I guess, a sort of theme of dual identities in the episode. Illusions, stuff like that. And I guess religion and faith could be another one, with the people kind of believing in this Painted Lady, you know, and kind of how that inspires them to save them as well. I can kind of see, like, if everyone believed that the Avatar would bring balance and then suddenly the Avatar disappears or the Avatar dies, they might lose faith in the idea of, like, a figure to look up to or celebrate or whatever. So I think maybe that could be why, when they realised, oh, she's just a waterbender, she's not the Painted Lady after all, why that might sting, and that could be why they would turn so quickly, because, you know, it's like losing a figure like that to look up to all over again, if they even would be happy that the Avatar's alive or dead. So yeah, I liked the idea of Katara taking a stand and becoming maybe not someone she should have been, but someone she needed to be in that particular situation. And, you know, that, I think that speaks to other characters like Zuko and stuff, who obviously wasn't in this episode, but there were a lot of links to different characters having to do similar things like that. And the fact that right at the end, the lady actually was real. After all, the painted lady is real. What the fuck does she do? Nothing, it would seem. She was just there, thanks for doing all my work. I was just there sunbathing or something, I don't know. She was listening to an audiobook on the beach, getting a tan or something. I don't know what she does, but she's real. I almost didn't want her to be real, I think. I think it would have been a maybe more powerful message if she wasn't, but you know, I guess it's a fun ending that she actually was real, but it's also then you ask the questions like, oh, what do you do then? You just gonna watch them do? Maybe she just doesn't have the power to change anything, but then what is her purpose? Maybe that'll come back into play. I don't know. But yeah, I like the idea of kind of Katara becoming this painted lady to help as best she can. And yeah, that was definitely, I think, the strongest aspect of the episode, where Katara was just taking that stand and like, I will not turn my back on anyone. And then how that kind of relayed into Sokka, and how he kind of took that message into and kind of catered it to his own beliefs, I guess. You know, kind of finding that balance. And sometimes that's what it's about, finding balance in other people's beliefs and religions and stuff. You know, you don't need to scoff at the idea of a village believing in a painted lady. If they do, they do. If it makes them happy, then cool. Let's all just vibe together, you know. Everyone has different religions. Some people don't believe in anything. You know, I don't believe in a god or anything. But I'm happy that other people do and can have that for themselves, because it brings them, you know, some comfort and some peace and a way of life. So I like that they kind of lean into it in this episode in regards to that sort of deal. Obviously, I don't think that was, they sat down when they pitched this episode to be like, this is what we're going for. It's all about, you know, accepting other people's religions and, you know, cohabitation. Is that a word? I don't know. It is now. You know, just kind of accepting different viewpoints of the world and different beliefs in, you know, spectral figures and how the world's come to be. Yeah, that's not what they were, I think, necessarily setting out to do, but I like that you can read into that and take that from, you know, episodes like this, which in the grand scheme of things, you know, wasn't like a major plot episode like the Fire Lord or anything like that. It very much literally was a distraction episode. You know, it was kind of a filler one, really, but it also wasn't, because it was a great episode for Katara. So yeah, I really enjoyed kind of what it did for all the characters. Toph's just kind of there for vibes again. I'm hoping we get kind of a centric episode about her soon, and maybe check back in with what's going on with her and exploring her character a bit. But yeah, I really enjoyed the episode. It was just great to watch Avatar again after all this time, to be honest, and have watched something new for the first time in like a year and a half. So that's very exciting. And hopefully it won't be a year and a half until I watch episode 4. That would be a bad time, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, I can tell you how prepared I was now. I wrote my notes on an envelope. So, you know, this was a very spontaneous decision. So hopefully I didn't just chat shit. But yeah, I really enjoyed the episode. It was great to watch a new one. And I do look forward to seeing where this all goes next. I can't remember how many episodes are in this season. I feel like it's like 20 or 21. So, you know, still scratching the surface of it. But nonetheless, I am excited for what will come next. And hopefully you enjoyed this as well. Apologies if it was bad. I really struggled to tell anymore. So, yeah, that was that. Good to see you all. Let me know your thoughts on the episode, etc. All that standard stuff that we used to do back in the day. But yeah, this has been quite fun to do another episode. It's another reason I went for Avatar now, is because the episode's like 20 minutes long and I felt like I was a bit more comfortable just doing that. Because if something went wrong and I felt like, oh no, I can't post this is awful. It wasn't too much of a waste of time because it wasn't as long a video. But regardless, I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed that episode. I look forward to more whenever that may come. And yeah, thanks for watching.